And if Laura, you can just continue to let people in as they come in. So welcome everyone. We're to our user group today. We're going to be chatting about setting up for registration success. So this is going to be kind of two-faceted. We're going to go through both kind of how we set up registrations for your success and some other tips and tricks that you can use as organizations. And then we're hoping that you'll all share what's kind of worked for you at your organization. So we kind of created a little infographic for you, and we're going to go through each of the steps today in our presentation. But ideally, this is the path you want to be following for your registrations, especially your major kind of sessional registrations. Think of like your seasonal HFA, your camp sessions. These are going to be the steps you want to follow. So step one is create your game plan. So you're going to plan for what programs and instances you want to offer, determine the session length that you want to offer those in, determine what dates you're planning on registering. If you want to have a member date, a non-member date, if you want those to open at the same time, if you're going to offer priority registration, those would be kind of the discussions you'd want to have in advance. Determining when your instances are going to be visible. We see it pretty commonly that people will offer you a preview week. If that's something you want to have where your instances are visible on the portal prior to registration being opened, that's a discussion you and your teams would have. And then additionally, determine probably with your marketing team, if you have one, what communications you're going to be putting out leading up to your registration day. So once you have your game plan set, you're going to start mapping out your instances. So we know there's a couple ways to do that in Avocado. One being if you're kind of creating that one-off, you can absolutely just do that through the Avocado menu. You just want to ensure those instances are scheduled. But for these large sessional registrations, we do often see people going into Excel for it. So a couple best practices, we always recommend you download a new CSV. So go into your programs and camps, find a current program and export that so that you have the most up-to-date instance uploader sheet. As we're always evolving, we're adding new fields. You're going to have an issue if you try to upload an old sheet into a newer version. So just make sure you have that up-to-date one. And then something new that we've introduced is continuous instances. So this is something where if you have a group fitness yoga class that you know runs every Monday from 4 to 5, you can create that with 26 or 52 recurring instances so that every Monday that same instance will be scheduled. You do have the option if you want to enable rollover on those. And as well, we do support bi-weekly. So in an effort to keep your spreadsheet a little cleaner, we recommend you try those out for some of those group fitness type instances. We always encourage you to review your data. So make sure you double check your CSV prior to bringing it into Avocado. It helps if you can have someone else take a look. I know a lot of the time with the people on this call, usually your program leads are submitting it to you and you are that second look. So we always, again, recommend that you take a look before you try to upload it. When you do go into Avocado, we do recommend that you load the sheet, click verify, and then check the box to view any rows with errors. This is going to catch things like if you misspelled a prompt group name or a special resource, or if your end date was before your start date, you will see those. We recommend you make those corrections and then again attempt to re-upload. Once you do upload your document, what we do recommend is that you always click this download attachment button and review the file after you've put that into Avocado. This will give you any examples where we maybe didn't schedule an event because you have a facility closure or any kind of thing that happened as we were trying to create those events. So it's always good to review both of those. Once you have all your instances in Avocado, this is usually a discussion you'd have with your account manager as well, but making sure we get a ticket opened for you to have our team audit those instances. So this is a service we provide for you. Either your account manager will open the ticket, or if you know you're ready, you can send that ticket in. A couple details we just ask for is what sessions you'd like us to audit. If you can give us the specific session, that narrows down how many instances we're going to look at and how large that spreadsheet we give back to you is going to be. So if you can give us a list of the sessions, what day you're hoping registration opens. Obviously, we like to have a little bit of time to do this audit and get it back to you. But if it is urgent, registration opens in 2 days. That is something we'd want to know in the ticket. And any other additional helpful information. If you've done something new, you've changed up a config of how you normally do something, that's useful for us too, because we can take those extra steps to look into it. You're going to get a nice, lovely document back from us, which Andrew is going to go through. Andrew, I don't know if you want me to keep sharing the slides or if you want to walk through it.
No, so I did create slides for this, but this is just if someone looks at the slides later on, I'm going to actually share like a fake audit that we did and go through that.
I will stop presenting. All you.
So when you get an audit, you will get a nice looking document that looks like this. The first tab is just like the checks tab. This is the summary of the issues you're going to see on the different tabs. So just literally a summary. So price book checks. If we go down here, you'll see price book checks. You'll see that price books can't overlap. And then that's what all of these are. Red means it's a required change. Orange means it's a warning. So just double check and make sure that that was intended. I don't have a lot in this tab, so I'm just going to talk about it very briefly. This is just a high level when your instances start based on the different start dates. So this can be a quick way for you to go, oh yeah, I am supposed to have 20 instances starting on this date. But that's all that is for. So actual like problems is just for your own benefit. To go through the actual issues you're most likely to see, for the price book checks tab, we have your price books can't overlap, which you'll notice was on my checks and is in the slides. Price books can't overlap. So you need one price book per location per period of time. And you can see here, no one yelled at me to zoom in. I guess I will zoom back out when I'm done presenting. That this location has a price book that overlaps between the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2025. So this would just need to be changed so that this doesn't overlap anymore, but in your Salesforce environment, not this sheet. Moving on, the two issues we were most likely to see in the price book entry section is someone's using the placeholder general ledger for a product. It's okay if you use the placeholder product GL on the placeholder product itself, that's acceptable, but anything else should not. So we just flag that in red if there's an issue. And then also you don't want, well, presumably you don't want most products to be free. So this is just a heads up that you do have some free products and you might not want that. So because that is allowed, it's just yellow as a warning for you to review. If all of this looks okay, then great. You know, maybe your infant memberships are free, so everything is fine. But if you didn't mean for a program to be free, here is a way that you can catch that. You'll notice that the headers themselves are yellow and red. We change those colors if there's a problem in the column. Moving on to programs, we have updated the way that we do this sheet. Thank you, Pooja, for your awesome work, to just show you what specific instances and programs have those specific problems. So in this case, there's no product set for these three. Here's the ID, name of it, and then just what the actual issue is. Programs not being active, they obviously need to be active. Programs not showing up in the portal, you might have reg days for things that people have to come, either call your staff or come in for, so it's okay if they're not publicly visible, but if you want people to register on the portal, it needs to be publicly visible, obviously, so just a warning. And then ages, minimum and maximum age, not minimum age month and maximum age month. Minimum age and maximum age are still required. So you can add the month as well if you want, but these must be set. So you'll see that these programs don't have those set. For instances, there's a few more common issues. You'll see that there's like a problem with the start or the end dates themselves, like the start date is before the end date, or that the start time is before the end time. And you might go, well, 1:30 comes after 12:30, but the instance uploader uses a 24-hour clock, so that's actually 1:30 a.m. So that's a common mistake as well. So make sure that you're using PM instead. Moving on, we do recommend that all of your registration dates are set. So you have your start date, obviously, but then your registration start, priority, registration early, returning registrant, and the regular registration start. So In the order I'm going to click, this is when non-members can register. Registration early is when members can register. Returning registrant is when someone who has attended a program within the last year is returning to an instance at that location. And then priority registration is if someone has a priority membership, which you may not use. The reason we always recommend that you set all 4 of these is for clarity and for anyone looking at the record, it being clear that you have intentionally set the same days. So while you could just say set the registration early and the registration start dates, because you're not using the other fields, it's very clear to everyone if all 4 are set with the same date and time, that there was not a mistake that was made. So do recommend it for that reason. Also, future you, trying to remember why you might have done something. It would be easier if those fields were set. Public visibility, start and end dates need to be set if you want the instance to be publicly visible. Need to be set at all, and just like with the previous dates, the start date has to be before the end date. Maximum registrants can be set to 0 if you want the instance to just be a waitlist. But if that wasn't set at all, oh, sorry, it's a formula, then that would be a problem. If the min registrants is above your max registrants, that's a problem. Instance needs to be scheduled at all. So that's generally going to be you using the instance uploader and setting the reschedule column to true or yes. When you create a brand new instance with the instance uploader, it will always schedule on that creation. So if the D column, the instance ID column is empty, it'll schedule. But if you are making a change and you need the instance to be rescheduled, make sure you set a value in the reschedule column. And then just some price book entry issues. If the program's product doesn't have a price book in the appropriate location, so the instance's location for the period of time the instance takes place at. So I know that was a lot. That's why I put the information on the slides as well, and it's in the recording. These are the common issues we see when we perform these audits. So again, all of that is also documented here.
Just pause for a second. I see there's one question. Did you want to?
Yeah, sure, Vaibhav.
Yes. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
Andrew, I have a question on the program sheet. So you have mentioned that the minimum age years and the maximum age in years should be always mentioned. What if I have a program which is eligible for children below from 5 months of age up till 2 years, 5 months to 2 years?
You can set 0 on the minimum age and then 5 on the minimum age month. That's okay.
Okay.
You just should set something, like don't leave it blank.
Okay, perfect. It should not be blank.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions about our lovely audit sheet? Awesome. I can pass it back to Rachel.
So in addition to the audit that we've provided, we've started working on getting this into your Salesforce environment. So step 1 of that for us was making sure that this lives on your instances. So when you go to your instances and programs, you'll now see an audit tab, depending on what version you're on, obviously. But this will have a lot of those fields that we are checking flagged in here as well as some additional lookup fields to show you what GL is being used specifically by a certain product's price book at that location if you're overriding it. And several of these fields, obviously the lookups are kind of exempt from this, but any of the ones we're kind of checking true false, you can pull those into Salesforce reports and pull those into dashboards. And I know some of our clients, Caitlin, I know I'm going to call you out and give you some praise here, kind of got ahead of us on this. So we are working to get these dashboards in your environments. But I know, Caitlin, at Calgary, I believe you've already done this. I don't know if you're open to just kind of sharing what you did for that dashboard. If not, that's totally okay too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. Did you want me to like share my screen?
Sure,
Just
yeah.
for the visual? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, I have to figure out how to do that.
It's the little checkbox beside the hand with the arrow pointing up, if that helps.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. That's very helpful. So I have done this for the last 3 sessions of our registrations, each trying to make my audit easier. And then every time I'm like, wow, there's a new way I could do it, and spend more time than I should on it. But it's evolved to, I basically just use the audit spreadsheet that Andrew showed of all the different things that they audit, and made a separate report for each kind of thing, for each like thing that I'm trying to make sure is not an issue. And I set it up so that if there is no issues, the report will show nothing on it. So if I have a nice pretty dashboard, then everything is 0. If I come in and I refresh my dashboard and there is an issue in an instance, one of these boxes will, or multiple, depending on what the issue is, will flag as red, and we'll have a number of how many instances or programs are impacted. It did take me a while to set up, and I got pretty particular, but I did, for example, like just with registration start dates, you can see in the filters here, I do basic filters of like which session and instance kind of categories I'm looking at. And then I do, you know, if the date is not equal to the date I need it to be, then it'll show up. Or if it's not equal to, we're bad, we don't follow Andrew's advice, and we do keep our 2 fields blank. So that's not great. But those kinds of things is kind of how I structured the reports. Another thing that I would advise, of anything that like is pricing that I've done, I've also subscribed myself to those reports. We use price groups for our stat impacted instances. That's the way that we've structured it. And because that's at the instance level, some of our staff will re-upload or make an edit to an instance, and there's the potential that they might kind of take off the price group, and then that impacts pricing. So for example, those kinds of reports, I also subscribe them to myself daily with the condition that if there is anything like record count greater than 0, then it will send it to me each morning. That's just later on in the session, once I'm not checking the dashboard so often, I still kind of have that immediate notification if some of those kind of key, especially pricing ones, go amiss. So yeah, that's that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Caitlin. Awesome. And then next up, once you obviously have all those instances in, you do have the option to request a sandbox refresh. So that is something that we do offer. This allows you to test registering for those instances. So if you've done something where now you're using price groups for stat holidays or to offer senior or youth pricing, it gives you the opportunity to walk through that in your environment with your flows, with your configuration, with your setup. So that is absolutely something we can do. We definitely recommend it if you're changing your config. And as well, we do have the option to run load testing as well in your sandbox. If you know it's going to be a really high volume registration, it's your big camp reg for the year, we can run that as well. That's something we can do, but we obviously would do that in your sandbox environment. Next step would be to promote to the community. So we recommend using Portal communiques. This is something we've seen be pretty successful. It lives on that homepage right when someone logs in. And you can add links specifically going to certain programs or going to certain categories or even specific instances if you're offering something new. This is something we do see working really well with getting people where they need to go. So it kind of takes out a couple of those extra clicks. To that point as well, we do recommend using categories as well. It just helps filter things down, make things a little easier for your clients to get there. Ella?
Can you turn to the previous page? Is it possible to get rid of the date that we put in this, the date at the top? Because what we found, it's confusing for people. They think that what we're promoting is on Sunday, October 27th.
Don't believe so currently, but it's definitely something we can take a look at and see. I'll take a look for you and follow up with Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Matthew?
I was just going to say maybe we could have someone from the support desk look at a CSS override for that, just to get you by. Yeah.
Perfect. So for those links as well, we do have fields now on the program in the instance that'll allow you to pull them into native Salesforce reports. So this is something you can provide to your marketing team if you wanted to have something live on your website, or you're going to send out email communications. You can grab those links via the instance or the program and export them in a report. Registration day or days, depending on how you choose to structure your registration. The TechShare team will have a scheduled event on our calendar to monitor your registration, provided you obviously let us know in advance. So we will be on standby. We are there to jump in that call if you need us. And we will follow up with an email highlighting important information from the registration. And we do recommend creating a dashboard for tracking your registration progress. We do have one that we can provide to you. We're working on getting our dashboards updated for everyone. But if there's specific things you want to see, by all means, feel free to clone that dashboard and customize it to get your own fields in, or whatever reports are the most important to you. And then step 10 is to celebrate. So we want to celebrate the fact that we have done over 50 sessional registrations with you all this year, in addition to weekly registrations, kind of operational. We see a lot of you releasing instances on a weekly basis. During our sessional registrations this year, we have seen over 7,000 of your registrations come in within the first minute. So we do recognize that you are busy. There are people who are definitely interested in your programs and they're trying to get there as soon as possible. And that of those registrations, we saw over 44,000 occur within the first half hour. So we just want to celebrate all of you and your successes, that it was a great year. Congratulations. We know you've all been working hard, especially post-COVID, to get those registration numbers up. So just from the TechShare team, our absolute congratulations on your successful registrations this year. And on that note, I wanted to open up the floor for you all to share what's working for you in your registrations. How are you kind of promoting things? And then if there's any KPIs you're currently tracking or KPIs you would like to see, KPIs being key performance indicators for your registrations that we can assist with going forward, we would love to hear your feedback. Would anyone like to volunteer? Caitlin?
I can start us off. For our biggest KPI that we're measuring is just the percent of online registrations that are happening in that first 20 minutes. We had our most successful Friday. We have weekly Friday registrations. We had our most successful one last week. I beat Mike by 2 registrations in the first minute, and we had 97% online. So that was very exciting. And by 2, I mean, I think we had like 892 registrations in the first minute just for a week. It was wild.
So Calgary has a lot of really, really aggressive people every week that need to get spots. So that is always a challenge. And there's been a lot of work around payment processing and getting the speed of that to work, integrating to other systems. So if there's ever any concerns, what Rachel was mentioning about load testing, it's not just our system, it's about how it integrates to the payment as well.
I might also, sorry to jump in one more time, I might also add one other thing that we test usually during that first 20 minutes of the registration is we do have a report that will show us a breakdown of registrations, usually by like category level, especially for our Friday week registrations. It's not always Mike and I that are doing the instance uploading. So there's like a little bit more chance for error there. And we find that by breaking it down like that, it's really easy to see if in the first minute, we don't see any fill rate in certain categories. It's really easy to help narrow down which instances might have had an issue. So that's another thing we found helpful for tracking in that first period.
That's awesome. Thanks, Caitlin, for your feedback. 97% online is crazy too. That's awesome. Anyone else want to share? Adam?
Yeah, I can jump in. The audit sheet looks fantastic. That's really great work by the TechShare team. We haven't taken you up on the offer to use it yet. I think we've sort of grown some of those systems internally, but might take you up on, like, as we look at our batch of 12 months of childcare registrations for 2025. Some things that have worked well for us on the way to a better audit system. We'll often create instances for a long period of time. We might upload 6 months worth of a program, and that works until the people delivering the program forget they're delivering the program. So we've created what we call portal preview reports for all of our HFA GMs, where they get to see what's going to post on the portal before it posts on the portal. So they're able to like see it before their members register for it or see it online. And that's been a really successful way to catch the, oh, that instructor quit and we need to stop offering that one program midway through. So that's worked really well. The other thing that has been helpful, and I think Caitlin, you said this, is grouping instances in either into their program or their session or by location and measuring fill rate. That's been a really useful tool for us to make sure that we're offering programs that actually fill.
Adam, last time we talked about, I think it was flows. You had a flow, I thought, that enabled a program. Was it a program at a certain time to show up on the portal, or was it disabled it? I can't remember if it was programs or membership though, so I might be leading.
Yeah, it's memberships.
Oh, okay.
We want to turn the promo on at 10 p.m. and I don't want to physically turn the promo on at 10 p.m.
So something similar, like we have a start date and an end date already on the program, so I get it. Yeah, never mind. I led you astray.
Thanks for sharing, Adam, as always. Anyone else want to give some feedback about registration?
If there isn't, can you share, you mentioned that Caitlin was ahead of us on the dashboard, can you share a little bit about that strategy? Like right now we're doing a report, but our goal to automate it?
Yeah, so our goal is kind of twofold. We started on an individual level, working towards a more macro level, so that you would have kind of an instance audit tool living within Salesforce. So similar to the dashboard, but mixed with what Andrew showed you in the sheet, where you would have links to those kind of living right on it. And then in conjunction with that, working on if there is a problem with the instance and we know it's not going to work when you go to register, not letting that program be set to active, so that we're creating a better experience for the end users. So saying you have these issues, these are what you need to fix, and until your price is put in, you can't have that instance as active. So working on some validation with that as well. Keelan?
Out of curiosity, would that type of validation be able to be like sophisticated enough to look at the price group kind of products as well? Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So
stunning.
we're working on building that out too. Price groups is an area we're continuing to expand into. And obviously when you start adding like 6 prices on top of 2 products that are normally there, it adds an additional level of complexity. So understanding that more and more of you are using price groups for different scenarios, and building those out so that the audit would encompass those as well.
Definitely going to have iterations of it, I think, is the challenge. And we're going to try to get everything that you ever want, but we don't want to wait till it's 100% before we give it to you too. Yeah.
Awesome. I have one more person that I'm going to request. Jay, I know you shared a spreadsheet of how you kind of set up your instances at NEO. Is that something you'd be willing to kind of share with everyone if you're here?
I am here. Yeah, I'd be happy to. How would you like to speak to it or share the screen, or what's...
Whatever's easiest for you. We're pretty easygoing here.
I'm happy to share. It's funny, I'm actually doing right now for our winter programming, so it's perfect timing.
I'll allow you to share if you like, or if you just want to speak to it, go ahead.
I can share. I have it open, actually. It's perfect. No, so there we are.
She puts me on the spot too, Jay, so you're not alone, man.
They did email me in advance and Laura in advance of the spreadsheet.
So I guess so. We used to have a lot of programmers working in the load sheet. Did I share the right screen? You see, yeah. And what we found, we had a lot of inconsistency. So where one programmer might think that the start date, or just understanding all of different columns. So in this beast, there's capacities. So we're using VLOOKUP to control the capacity, especially when we're copying and pasting multiple columns. And then this is the master sheet where all the dates come from. So a member registration date for winter, that all feeds automatically. So there's only the 3 columns that we would need to ever adjust on the individual load sheet. Just need to update the program name, the start date, and the start time, and everything else takes care of itself. A few exceptions, if you have a program that runs for an hour instead of half an hour, that's there. But even the day of the week, that won't schedule. That's all calculated. So it really is just those ones. We do use price groups as well. So when we're looking at a stat, so on Holiday Monday, Family Day is coming up in Ontario, that would be something else that we just need to keep an eye on. But other than that, it's all just a series of equations, which has been really helpful. So I did swimming lesson registration this morning for one branch. It was about an hour. It took start to finish, and that was probably 75 to 100 different instances. So makes it real quick, real easy, and it's right as long as people don't change anything other than those orange cells. And if anybody wants a copy of this, happy to share it.
Thanks so much, Jay. Awesome. Anyone else have anything they want to share, or any KPIs that they maybe not currently tracking that would be helpful to track? I mean, I know there's a couple from our side that we're looking at, but open to hearing from all of you as well. If there's anything that you would love to be able to report on that you can't currently.
I might jump in. Jay, that's a lovely spreadsheet. Thank you for showing. We've talked in the house about building one of those for HBB. Currently, we've actually taken the exact opposite approach, where we've used the tool we talked about in the previous user group, and we've blocked the instance upload button for everyone except the Avocado team. So I know that, like, Ben's on the call. Ben builds 80% of the instances, and people feed information to him. So we've gone for the exact opposite control, where I don't want extra cooks in the kitchen. But that's really, really cool. Could I ask, Rachel, is there any sort of roadmap to either auto skip stat holidays? Because we can use price groups, but then the schedule still gets made. You have to go instance by instance and delete the events on the schedule. Or this is a separate one. So auto skip stats, or assemble the instance chains without having to upload all the instances to get the IDs and pull them all down to assemble them in a chain.
I think I can answer both of those. I'm going to probably ask for a clarification on the second one. First one, yes. We have the observed facility closures now, which if you create your holiday on your calendar as a facility closure, which blocks events, basically if you hit observed facility closures is true, it won't schedule the event on that day. So you can use that. Where you're going to want to be mindful is if you're doing attendance determined billing, you obviously wouldn't bill for a day that you're not there. And then if your start date lands on the day of a closure, will default you to the next day that it would start. So that's just something to be aware of. But you can use that functionality for that, because we noticed that you guys were going in and deleting a lot of instances to cover those holidays. So tried to make that a little easier. And then we've started rolling this out with the continuous instances. You can enable continuous rollover. So currently we only support weekly and bi-weekly, but the goal is to continue to expand that so that basically weekly it would roll week to week, or bi-weekly it auto pains those instances. So that's something we're continuing to expand out. So a couple newer features, but yeah. definitely still working on the second one. So you don't have to do that export and re-import. Hope that answered those, Adam. Perfect. Anyone else?
And if there's something after we hang up or whatever, you guys all know how to get a hold of Rachel directly or through your account manager. And it's a small community, so we appreciate all your feedback. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, last call for questions, comments. All right, I'm gonna end the recording.